For a more immersive experience, I recommend you wear headphones for this podcast. Trigger warnings, mention of eating disorders and self-harm. Hi, this is weird. I've never really done it this way before, but the clock just changed and it's Halloween, and I really didn't want to be alone, so I'm recording from here, the Gasco. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've been here before, but just in case you haven't, my name is Carol Green, and I'm a gas station attendant at a tiny convenience store in the middle of nowhere, Washington. My store is tucked back in the woods, and I work the night shift. On top of that, I'm what you might call a seer. That's really the only word I know for what I am, though I think I'm more than that somehow. The point is, I see ghosts, and other things that most people don't see. And the thing about working the graveyard shift off an old highway with no one else within miles is that, well, it's a passing through for travelers, for ghosts, and all the other things. So when I say I see, I mean often. I'm even haunted by a Volvo. But tonight is Halloween, and that means, as of 1 hour ago, I am officially 19 years old. Yay! It is true what they say, that the veil is thinner on this day, especially in the early AM hours, just past midnight of the 30th. So here I am, on my birthday, at 1 a.m., alone on the side of the road being a haunted person on a haunted night in a haunted gas station. Lucky me. So you can understand why I thought it might be nice to record myself here for once. A little lonely birthday party with me, the ghosts, and you, my listeners. Sorry about all the interference with the signal. Honestly, I should have expected that. The Wi-Fi here is a bit spotty, but I figured it was worth the risk. If we cut out and get lost in the ether, well, I guess I'll catch you on the flip side another time. It sort of feels weird. This is the first year there'll be no real party. No celebrations or well-wishing, no dress up in frilly dresses as a princess or an angel because my parents didn't like scary things. No telling me I can only have one piece of cake because I need to watch my weight. There is no cake this year. I haven't mentioned anything to the Gasco employees. Let it go by. There will be no pebbles hitting my window, and no opening it to find the neighborhood punks grinning up, orange haze hanging around their heads from the street lights and the smoke of their cigarettes, waving their arms and mouthing "Happy Birthday" while stifling laughs and throwing Tootsie Rolls at me. The funny thing is, I'm not even really that sad about it. It kind of feels like a relief. I just got a text from one of them, actually, like I conjured them out of the ether just by thinking of the past. 3 bats and a party hat. Clearly she wasn't sure if I wanted a happy birthday. Not sure how happy it is. The phone feels heavy in my hand. Another text. Another ghost from the past. He sends one of those awful sparkly corrupted gifs of a cat in a bat suit. Why so many bats? They probably remember tiny me in angel wings with hair like halo covered in a bucket of glitter. I was never allowed to dress up as something scary or dead or bloody. So I often chose angels because they're scary by default, right? Be not afraid. Isn't that what they always say? If an angel shows up, there's gotta be a reason. Plus you get a badass sword. Besides, angels and ghosts are kind of similar in my book. Walking, unseen among us, draped in white and glowing lights. It's the closest my little kid brain could get to being something cool and scary. I don't really think about angels much these days. It's the ghosts that consume me now. You won't not be sending me a birthday text, a silly emoji, or a sparkle gif reminiscent of the MySpace era. No grainy flip phone selfie, face painted like a skull, crooked teeth, and a heartbreakingly wicked grin, mischief in your eye. You haven't sent me a text in over 2 years. The connection's getting worse. Maybe the Gasco doesn't want me to record its happenings as they happen. I really just thought it would be nicer to be here with you, dear listeners, in case shit went down. There hasn't been a birthday yet where I survived without something going down. I'm actually not sure if that's what's causing this thing to flip out like this. There's a kind of static in the air around me. Everything feels slightly off. And there's a weird sort of hum, even louder than the fridges. I thought that's what it was at first, but if I step outside, I can hear it there too. There's no wind, no rustling of pines, just this unearthly void sound that makes me feel on edge. Maybe I should have told Sam I wanted tonight off. I needed to not be here, alone in this building. Ugh, sorry, it's getting worse again. Hold on a second. I'm so sorry for this interruption. I want to tell you a story, and this is the only way that I can think to do it. Don't worry, little gas station attendant. This Halloween, you'll be safe. Has it always been dark here? I can't remember. Dark and cold and empty. There's an icy chill, but the air is perfectly still, almost dead. I can feel it in my bones. I don't remember how long I've been sitting in this darkened room. I can see a sliver of light beneath a door I can't quite reach, a bright white strip that makes my eyes hurt and my heart ache. It leaves purple impressions on my vision if I stare at it too long. I don't know where the threshold leaves. I'm too scared to cross the room to open the door to find out. There is sound here, the muffled rustling of people moving in other rooms and conversation that I can't properly hear. It's almost like I'm underwater. Sometimes I hear what I think is music, but I don't recognize it. Most of the time I hear nothing though. There's no sign of life. Just a constant hum. Like a fluorescent light. It vibrates through me. It honestly makes me feel a little bit crazy. Sometimes all I can do is put my hands over my ears and scream to drown it out. I do prefer the hum to the people, though. I can understand it at least. Time ticks by. I have no clock, but I know it's been a while. I wish someone would come and get me. I'm waiting for something. I wish I could remember what it was. Sometimes I doze off when the waiting gets too much. And when I wake up, I'm somewhere else. I can feel the velvety seat covers and the belt that cuts across my breast. The radio dial, it glows orange. But the windows are blacker than I can even comprehend. Blacker even than the room I'm usually in. It's all consuming. I write songs in my head while I wait. I think that's normal, isn't it? Create scenarios and daydream, make up stories and lyrics and music to keep yourself from losing it completely, right? I don't speak much. For some reason, it feels understood to be forbidden, but I do hum just to hear the sound of my own voice. Just to make sure I'm still here, you know? Like cutting yourself to make sure you still bleed. I hum to make sure I still bleed. I think I do. Sometimes I even try to match my voice to the strange hum of this place. I pitch myself until I can't even hear my own voice because I can blend it so perfectly with this ceaseless sound. It feels like a triumph somehow. Before you ask, I have gotten up before. I've stepped across the room and touched the walls and the door, the vanity mirror. I can't see any of it, but I know it's there. It feels like I know things, even if I can't remember them. I don't know how to make that make sense, but nothing really makes sense to me anymore. In the car I sometimes find myself in, though, there's a sensation of smells even. Crisp autumn ones. I can almost taste the air through a crack in one of the windows. I can stick my fingers through it, but I can't force it down. I can't open the door either. It's unlocked, but something's pressing from the outside. But I like being in the car. My favorite thing in this darkness is to lean the car seat all the way back and daydream about the crunching of leaves, pumpkin heads carved into funny faces, and cozy sweaters. Did I ever have those things? I don't even remember anymore. I I can't even remember my own name. So I wait, and I wait, and wait, until finally one day, the waiting ends. It happened very suddenly. I was sitting and staring at nothing, the usual, just the darkness. I could hear the muffled underwater conversation, just in another room, whispering in what sounded like hushed giggles. It was all muddled together, though. I wonder, how long has it been since I've laughed? I began to hum, to drown it out, and closed my eyes with my hands over my ears. But when I opened them, it was light. Not fully light, but like a red, stained, dirty light. It still hurt my eyes and took me a moment to focus. I was sitting in a vanity chair in front of a mirror, and in the mirror was a girl. No, there were several girls. Why were there girls in my mirror? I looked behind me quickly, but there was no one there. Just a room I didn't recognize with empty walls and pink bedsheets. I was also pretty certain it wasn't my own reflection. I don't think I was a petite 13-year-old blonde. I could tell, 'cause when I looked down I could see my hair was brown, and I was wearing a different sort of nightgown. The other girls in the mirror were laughing, and they were mouthing words, but I couldn't quite make it out. But the girl in the front, I couldn't take my eyes off her. She was staring at me, completely transfixed, pale as a ghost. I could see her lips trembling, and her breath was coming out in a frost, but it was only faintly visible. Her eyes were such a strange color I didn't have a name for it, but they kind of reminded me of that constant hum in a way that it doesn't make sense to say out loud. I wondered if it was because she was holding a little blue nightlight tightly in her little hands, and it was lighting up everything in an eerie pale shade, so ghostly. She was dressed like an angel, though, and I wondered if it was Halloween. She had big teased up Dolly Parton hair that shone and shimmered with her trembling. The glitter paint on her face did the same, sparkle and shine every which way. And then I realized that wasn't it at all. It was her. There was something about her that I couldn't focus on. It was like she refracted the low light and glitched out, like an old movie film full of light leaks. I couldn't take my eyes off her. I could see in my peripheral the other girls had stopped laughing. One of them reached out and took the angel by the shoulder and gave her a tiny shake. She tore her eyes away from mine, and the light cut, pushed me back into darkness. Alone. Holy Mother of Mary, I think I just saw a ghost. Okay, calm down. It's fine. Just a ghost. In my mirror. That's not normal. Is any of this normal? I couldn't see the scene behind the other girls. Were they all angels? A heavenly choir sent to take me away from this surreal prison that I find myself in? Wait, am I dead? No. Was this the light that everyone talks about? Why was she wearing a classic costume angel outfit with wings and a little halo, instead of just being like, a terrifying display of spinning eyes and wheels and fiery swords? Why was she a little girl? I sat there, gripping my knees with both hands, white-knuckled, trying to even out my breathing. The whole time I'd been here, I'd been lost and a little at unease, but never had I been filled with the absolute sheer terror like this. It took me hours, days, years, what even is time, for me to calm myself and stop the tears from flowing. There was one thing I couldn't forget about that little angel, and it was branded into my mind like hot steel. Behind those eyes of unknown color was the most profound look of sadness I'd ever seen. I couldn't help but wonder what would make an angel so sad. And I thought about it for an eternity. And just when I thought I couldn't stand it anymore, the darkness, the voices, the car, the lights flicked on, and there she was, the blue angel in my mirror. I stared at her. It really must have been an eternity. She was no longer a child, a bright-faced teen on the cusp of adulthood. She looked back at me with wide, fathomless eyes. She was still frightened, and that was fair. So was I. And even though she was no longer dressed as an angel, she still looked like one. She had a small nightlight clutched in her hands, and she was holding it so tightly the pale blue light flickered, lighting up her face and hair into ghostly hues. I stared at her, and she stared back. I was terrified, so when she moved her hand to touch her own face, as though testing if I was just a reflection, I moved mine as well. She lifted her other hand, so I lifted mine. It was strange, like I could predict what move she was going to make. Maybe I could convince her I was just a reflection, so maybe she wouldn't leave me here again. And then suddenly she looked away, a frightened expression like she heard something and was surprised, and snap! I was plunged back into darkness. She came back, though, which was good because for some reason I found myself missing her, the ghost in my mirror. We stood and stared at each other. It'd taken me a while to notice that the room I was in had transformed into a reflection of the bathroom that she was in. We both slowly backed up and sat on the closed toilet seat, observing each other, never losing eye contact. I mimicked her every move. I feared if she figured out that I was more than a reflection in her ghostly realm, she'd be too scared to visit me again, because I'd found out something about myself, and that was that I was very, very lonely, and I didn't want the sad, pretty girl in my mirror to leave me here again. It took a few days, but she started to speak, never breaking eye contact, because when she did, it seemed like her connection broke. I continued to mimic her movements like we shared a single body, even on separate sides of the mirror, and I listened, and oh, how my heart broke. This beautiful girl, her image was so ethereal. She glittered even in the dark, throwing sparks of light around her like a disco ball. Her tears were like diamonds streaking down her face. She told me about loss. She had lost someone, and she did not know how to find him again. Did he know she loved him? They wouldn't let her see him. Her letters never made it through. Who was they, I wondered, and what right did they have to stop teenage hearts that beat pink and gold with puppy love? Was she lost in the dark like me? Days and weeks passed as she told me about the everything, about painting the face on the doll-like body that didn't feel like hers every morning, about locking away all the thoughts she couldn't say out loud, not even to me. She told me about how she was a cheerleader, and she said that was fun sometimes, and she had been prom queen for the last 2 years. I was with her when she got ready for homecoming, false eyelashes and glitter hiding the tears. The light had stopped going out as much. The connection stopped breaking when she looked away, as though it was getting stronger. Though I think it must have broke on her side, 'cause even when she wasn't talking to me, I could see the room. It was like watching a movie, an interactive one. I watched her run into the room sometimes and throw up on her knees, arms holding onto the toilet bowl, and I worried about her. She was so small, but she talked about modeling and fitting requirements and living up to expectations put on her. She talked about trying so hard to earn love that never came, how she always fell short no matter what she did. When she talked to me, she held on to that little blue nightlight, sitting on the toilet seat and murmuring in earnest whispers the secrets of a living doll, not allowed to have her own life. She told me other secrets about the episodes she had, how she saw things that no one else could see, how she saw ghosts sitting on park benches with vacant eyes and vacant stares, unable to move forward, their images flickering like old VHS tapes. how the monsters under her bed were real, and no one believed her, and no one comforted her. Not anymore. She played with a pendant around her neck when she spoke. I did the same, which was funny because I didn't remember wearing a pendant before. The more she spoke to me, the more she poured into me, the more my world built up back around me. Like her secrets were tearing down the walls of my darkness and building my life up around me again. She really was an angel, and she was saving me by pouring her heart into me. And as she talked, and as the days went by, I think I saved her too. She brightened. She was coming up with hushed solutions, better plans, ways to fix what was broken or rebuild it all together. She was becoming a golden light until it all exploded. She was talking to me late one night, secret dreams and aspirations of going to a college that she chose. She was going to study sound production. She was scared. She'd run away if she had to. She wanted to make a podcast. I didn't know what that meant. I had never heard that word, but I listened and I mimicked. Her parents had locked her in her room. Apparently, when they went out, she had a habit of sneaking out as well, running off to have fun with the local punk kids, which made me smile. The idea of this little sweet angel hanging out with the rough and tumble patch-knee boys with their mohawks was the cutest thing she'd ever done, which was kind of hard to achieve, because at that point, I thought everything she did was pretty cute. Anyway, like I said, her parents locked her in her room, so here she sat, alone in the bathroom with her only confidant, me, the girl in the mirror. And that was when we both heard the crash from downstairs. In that moment, the knowledge that had been growing in me since the moment she reappeared in my darkness came crashing to the surface. She turned in a panic towards the bathroom door, but this time, the connection didn't break on her side, because I finally had it all figured out. She was alive, and I was the ghost. Well, not a ghost exactly. Ghosts have no memories. They are empty shells made of moonlight and shadow with no room for things they knew when they were alive. I was a little bit different. Something created out of fear and hate and anger, and because something had happened to me that was so dreadful, I had become imprinted on the in-between spaces. I was a poltergeist. I stood up with her, followed her on my mirrored side to the door. I was stronger now, more than a wisp in the dark, and I was filled up with her love and her heartbreak and her fear and her anger. The thing about poltergeist is that we can interact if we become powerful enough to do such things, and we can make choices. And many of us choose mischief out of boredom, especially since it would seem that fear is what makes us stronger. But we don't have to choose evil. We can choose love. How did I know all of this? It was like as soon as I made the connection, as soon as I realized that I was the dead one, it all came to me. I saw the relief in her eyes when she saw me move with her, and I followed her into the bedroom, bare walls and pink sheets. I watched, and I mimicked her movements as she frantically tried to figure out what to do. The floor-to-ceiling mirrors on the wardrobe helped. They reflected the entire room. I couldn't even imagine being trapped in a room all day with nothing to look at but myself. That explained why she spent so much time in the bathroom looking at me instead. There were people in her house, and she was murmuring to herself that she couldn't let them find her here alone. Terrified, she ran to the window, and as I reflected myself in it, we both realized it was nailed shut. Who let these people that call themselves her parents have a child? My rage was boiling up inside of me. We heard the door handle rattle, and I jerked my head towards it. She didn't move, and it was the first time that I broke the mirroring. She stared at me, tears welling up and leaking down her cheeks. I beckoned her, pointing towards the floor-length mirrors on the closet. She followed my motion, so we were both standing in front of each other. Oh, she was really so cute and so sweet, a petite little thing, barely 5 foot tall. The door was pounding. They were here. I could hear them shouting, breaking, coming for some treasure they didn't know of behind this locked door. her tears and her rage, her fear and her loss. In a rush, I felt my own fear, my rage, my loss, the loss of a life barely past 17, a violent end to a beautiful story I had once had. How? I couldn't remember. It didn't matter. I reached out and I grabbed her wrist. Somehow, I knew I would be strong enough to leave the mirror, and I pulled her toward me, and I moved past her in one smooth motion, pushing her back through the mirror to my side, the safe side. "Get under the desk," I hissed, my voice broken and hoarse from decades of not speaking. I knew now that I had been dead for over 30 years. The men burst through the door, but I wasn't worried. I already died once, right? I didn't think they could kill me again. But Carrie, that was her name. I was able to hold on to it now. She was alive and breathing, and I could save her. I looked down, and for the first time I saw how she saw me. A white floor-length nightgown, drenched in blood like some kind of horror movie prom queen from a film I once saw. They froze when they saw me standing there, so I mimicked the girl from the film, chin up, head held high, shoulders black with blood running down my face and my arms, and I did the only thing that I could think of in the moment. I bundled up all of my anger, all of my rage, all of my fear, and I screamed. I screamed for so long and so loud I think at least one of the mirrors cracked. Everything I ever felt, all the pain from how I died, the fear of sitting alone in the dark for eternity, it all came out of me at the men that threatened to harm my angel. It must have lasted for several minutes. When I finished, empty of all my hate and anger, the men were gone. I'm going to assume they hightailed it out of there, but for all I know, I disintegrated them with my woman in white act. I looked for Carrie. She was slumped over sideways underneath the desk on my side of the mirror. I tapped the glass gently until she looked up at me, her eyes wide and round, the whites encircling violet irises. I put my hand on the mirror, and she approached me trembling. She pressed her hand against mine on the glass, tears streaming down her cheeks, glitching and glittering every which way, and I laced my fingers with her, warm but still too cold somehow, and I pulled her through. We cannot exist on the same side of reality, because I am a reflection of her love and her fear woven together with the lost soul of a broken heart. But because of what she was, I don't have a word for it. The glitching and the glittering, but I suppose seer will do for now. We we could have this moment, this passing through thresholds from one side to the next. So, for that split second, I closed my eyes, I mourned my own death, and I reveled in her life, and I pulled her past me, hand on her waist in kind of a clumsy waltz, a gesture of love for a girl I could never hold, putting her in her rightful place. But as I did, I whispered the advice I'd longed to give her the entire time I'd known her. I settled on my side, and when I opened my eyes, I was in another place, a place I'd left a long time ago, because I had a new mystery to solve, my own, and she was somewhere far, far away. My name isn't Mary, it's Claire. It's been a few years since then, but I do see my little angel once in a while. A small figure thrown into relief of the neon pinks and blues of the gas co that's been on old Highway 5 as long as even I can remember. Glittering and glitching, just as haunted as always, using a new name and living a new life. And somehow it seems to me that things are looking up, no longer just a doll with a painted face. So, I'm sending you the best, my little blue angel, this Halloween night. I hope all of your wishes and dreams come true. I hope that you find yourself, and I hope one day you find him again too, your sunshine boy. I really, really do. And I hope that you make your own path, wherever that may lead. But most of all, I hope that you live for you. Whoa, okay, sorry. I'm not exactly sure what just happened there. The lines cut and it was just dead air for a while. And I couldn't shut it off. It was weird. Like the lights went out here. The whole place lost power. Can you hear me? Somehow I lost my transcripts. I hope whatever dead air you just experienced, it was at least entertaining. Lights are back, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna close early tonight. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Mil-liminal. Be sure to follow social media or subscribe for updates. Want to know more? This podcast is actually based on a webcomic, and you can read it right now for free on Tapas and Webtoon. Just search for Mil-liminal, a horror romance about me, Caro, my podcast, and my desperate attempt to win a grouchy barista's heart. Or look for Seemingly Dark, a long-running supernatural comic full of ghosts, mysteries, and of course, I'm there too. Follow the creator, raptorjules, on Instagram or Twitter, or follow Seemingly Dark on Tumblr for art and stuff. Logo and music design is by SnakePixel on Twitter. A special shout out and thanks to my Patreons. And hopefully, I'll see you soon.